Okay, here we have some set flats and the thing holding them down. That's not as exciting as the stuff over here. Over here. Mark's Cards was here yesterday. Slick Otter is consultant. We don't even know what this is going to be at this point on the 9th of February. But we have the beginnings of a very creative bridge set. We've recycled the Amazon box. Some of the wood came in. And that is a swap bridge set. It is the beginning of it. And it can be used for a Transformers bridge, or a Star Trek bridge, or a Robotech bridge. Flip it and turn it around, any angle. You set up the walls, and there you have a bridge. And that's the subfloor. We'll see what kind of floors each bridge could have. So, also, yeah. Unlike the Estelle Knapp book story, which spent about $12, $15 on that one. This is a little more. Yes. The stuff that came in the Amazon thing, and this, totaling probably about $70 for all that. But yeah, we wanted to do it because we need more fan films. Yeah, we need more fan films. So yeah, the lens on this camera is dirty. So yeah, I want to fix that. So yeah. And this comes together, but it's drying. And we did not get any splatters anywhere. We put it up, it's just drying. Yeah, so. This is the 40th anniversary of Transformers, so that's the first thing, but we haven't written anything yet. But the set is fully collapsible and reestablishable. The only thing that kind of isn't are those background slant things, but yeah, they can just be stored away behind the wall when they're dry. So everything can be stored away easily. Flat set pieces, stuff like that. So, Queen Bee Studios is back. See what they're up to. But we don't know yet. So yeah, 2 minutes. That's it. 10th. Bridge. Those are actually the back walls of the sets that mainly are visible here. The front walls of the set's a Cybertronian sort of weird set thing. The bridge is compatible with either them or the other ones because the figures are really small nowadays. They're like almost smaller than G1. They're like small. So they got really big in the mid 2000s, and then they got small again. So save on plastic, I guess. Yeah. This is a recreation of the sets, and they can be used for other things, like a Robotech or a Star Trek or whatever, on the cheap, so we can put everything back. The other paint arrived, but we don't technically need it for this. If we make some other sets, we keep it around because it's useful, because we use the old paints from September, or, yeah, months ago. Didn't use them all up, so and some new ones. But yeah, it was still useful to have it, so we're keeping it. Yeah, so yeah, we gotta come up with a script. Yeah, so but I'm sure Kal Kat will come up with something. But yeah, on the set here we have the different things. Nothing in it looks like anything from any show. It's kind of its own thing. It seems to have a theme, which is interesting. Maybe it'll give us an idea of how to proceed with a 40th anniversary thing. Now, we've done that Robotech meets the Transformers thing already, so we've already done that a couple months ago. So this is something else. We've already finished up the other timelines and everything, so it'd probably be best to do something that doesn't have anything to do with the other timelines, and it's just its own thing for fun. So sort of Elseworld with Transformers. But yeah, mainly the later ones, the Siege and Earthrise ones, and all that. And we would get characters from Earthspark, but there aren't very many out there. There are only the cheapy ones, so there probably won't be any from Earthspark unless maybe the Drone Girl. Maybe that's it. but they don't make Nightshade, which is the interesting one. They don't make her around here. You can't find her. So yeah, that's odd. Anyway, so yeah, I would include it, but I don't want to spend like $50 trying to find one somewhere. That would be ridiculous. Yeah, so I can use other characters to play other characters. Yeah, so this was just an update. That's all. Painting sets, putting things up. The set is in place, and the other stuff has to sit here and dry. So yeah. The Star Trek figures. Painted them. They look really good on the camera. They pop. Cool. They're not as dark as last season's. So it looks like, yeah, we got some Star Trek figures here. Yeah, it looks like the figures are further along than the others here on the 14th than the Transformer stuff is. Yeah, so. Oh, yeah, and, yeah, so we're here. Transformer stuff. The Titans. So, yeah, they're here on the set of the movie and the show. A little bit after the Sunday Super Bowl, where the 49ers lost, but it was a good game. It was really close to the Chiefs. So I happen to have mentioned. I was going over when you want to put together a story, you kind of want to know where the characters were. So especially with the Star Trek story, you kind of want to know where they are now, their ages roughly, and then figure out where they are. I was going to put together a story based on that. So with you, and I'm going to put this down somewhere. So yeah, you want your characters, and when you do a fan film, because I'm not sure what the fan film will be even, but I did go over the characters, see how old the classic characters would be. About half of the original classic characters are dead. The Next Generation, all of them are still alive. There's a few peripheral characters that died, but yeah, the classic people that are still alive are in their late 80s, early 90s, like Shatner and George Takei and Walter Koenig. They're alive. They're in their late 80s, early 90s. So then we have Patrick Stewart, who is in his 80s, early 80s, and we have Jonathan Frakes and the other characters from Next Generation who are in their 70s and late 60s. Will Wheaton is in his 50s. He's a little younger than me, as it turns out. Actually, it turns out that Nicole DeBauer, who played Ezra Dax, is actually closer to me in age, a little older than Wesley. Anyway, so, but yes, in the 50s. Yeah. It turns out that the character who played Nick Locarno and Tom Paris, Robbie McNeil, is actually 60, and he's quite a bit old. Would have been in the academy when they were doing those stories. He would have been, as he held back a lot. I didn't go over the Lower Decks people. I could add them too, but they're confusing because of the age up thing. Yeah, I should add them, but it's not completely relevant. Although the finale of the season finale of last year on Lower Decks indicated that a version of Locarno from Lower Decks blew himself up in the Genesis with the Ferengi Genesis device on the planet and made a planet Locarno, which is probably unstable. But in Star Trek 3, the only other time that happened officially in canon, that resurrected Spock, so maybe it's going to resurrect him too. So there's a chance. The other thing I was going to briefly go into was Cedo Jaxa. What about Cedo Jaxa? Well, in the Next Generation timeline, she's dead. She died in the shuttle accident. And yeah, the creators of that episode, Lower Decks, that Lower Decks is based on, yeah, it kind of makes sense that her character died, even though the fans don't like it. It's kind of like it's actually less heroic than Yar's death. Yar was okay. It's the other way around. Yar's death was pointless. They just blasted her with an alien like tar creature. But when Cedo had died during the espionage shuttle scene, they could have sent anyone else out that would have been an expert, and they sent the ensign out. So she becomes the red shirt in Next Generation and dies. That's why they don't like it. Gold shirt becomes a red shirt. In the Starship Chimera universe, she's alive, and Nick Locarno is redeemed. And yeah, and the story goes with that we've gone over many times. Was that Nicholas Locarno, Cedo Jaxa, a young Vince Mahoney, and a young Crass were prisoners in the Daklala Cardassian prison camp in the 2370s during the after the Voyager left with Tom Paris, and Nick Locarno was probably not aware of his twin brother directly, Tom Paris, but they both had a similar backstory, and the Cillian space established that their backstory that their mother had died, but before that she had taken one of the twins, Locarno, to live with her. Her side of the family is a Locarno, and the other one, Tom Paris. So they're literally brothers. They are twin brothers. Lower Decks kind of implies that, actually, which is fun. That they are actually like twin brothers. They play with that. Also, Cillian space being what it is, a repository of knowledge from the Cillian children who Q messed with, who visited them in the 1980s and brought them into the Next Generation period, and also into Kirk's era, in his period. Because it's a Matryoshka, it's a holodeck, it's an imagined deck, it's thoughts creating reality, a la Jung Swan or Marshall Sportist. They have the ability to bring back the dead, because it's Q. You can do that. And so Cedo Jaxa was actually not killed. The Cardassians took her prisoner, but they couldn't do much with her, so they just stuck her in prison. And then she became messed up. And years later, in the Dominion War, the Exeter, the starship commanded by Sarah Esteban, was on its way to the. I don't know why I chose the name Sarah Esteban. I just thought it sounded cool, Star Trek kind of name. Cedo Jaxa sounds like a Star Wars name, as somebody on Reddit pointed out. But Jaxa Cedo definitely sounds like a Star Wars name. But yes, that was some Redditor pointed that out. But they didn't talk much on Reddit about the Cedo Jaxa thing. And in for Silly Trek, for that universe, it's going alongside one of the games from the 90s, which suggests that she became a Section 31 operative, which is a little silly. Let's just make everybody a Section 31 operative. But anyway, yeah, Cedo. And so we have so the Exeter rescues Locarno and Cedo and the other two, and during the battle for Beta Z, which happens to have the ship be called to during the fighting, they captured some prisoners, rescued some prisoners, and then went to the Battle of Beta Z because the ship had things to do. Went to the Battle of Beta Z, and the ship is damaged, and the bridge crew incapacitated. So Locarno, being inventive, and Cedo, who are not gravely injured, Locarno and his friends decide to help the ship. So they go down to engineering and auxiliary control, and they save the ship. They get the ship rescued out of there and save the ship. The Enterprise E shows up and helps the ship, and so it helps him out at that point. And Locarno is redeemed. He's been in prison in the Cardassian camp for at least 6 years, so you're redeemed now. You're redeemed. Cedo Jaxa is restored, but you could because there's cloning in Star Trek and there's other things in Star Trek. It doesn't diminish the character for her to still be around. Maybe she was cloned. Maybe it's actually not her. It's like a Cardassian copy of her, maybe or something. A twin sister, twin brother kind of thing. Yeah. So in the commentary, I was just assembling the thing, and I said, "Well, no, I was assembling just a character thing, just a backstory that has nothing to do with any episode, really. I was just coming up with things. What if she isn't the original Cedo Jackson? What if she isn't? Yeah. Kind of like that idea. What if the other one was killed, and the Cardassians created a clone of her, and that clone is the one that's the prisoner, and so then the Cedo Jackson that goes on to be rescued and then goes on to captain a ship and all that isn't the same girl, or maybe maybe it is. I mean, it is her. Maybe she was rescued later. Maybe the records are a little faulty, and she was rescued later from the Cardassian prison in 2380s. And that Locarno was already, but not redeemed in Lower Decks. Locarno seems to be a kind of a mirror Locarno, yeah. So, yeah, but is Lower Decks necessarily canon? I mean, they did visit the Enterprise from the other era, so you could say it's a different timeline where Lower Decks, the series, is a different timeline. There's any numerous ways to bring her back without diminishing the character's actual death in 2370, and then to say, well, actually, yeah. It's just, but yeah, maybe the Genesis planet in Paris in that story in the beginning of season 5 of Lower Decks, maybe it regenerates her, because you would think that if they got Shannon Phil out of retirement from acting, she was retired from acting. She's about my age. She's a little younger, I think. And she went out. I don't know her or anything. I haven't met her at a convention or anything. But I don't think she did conventions. But they got her out of retirement from acting to be in this one episode. I doubt they got her for one episode. I'm thinking there's going to be at least another one with her in it. And I think they're going to do that. I think in season 5, they're going to find a way to bring her back via that planet or otherwise. And they could, because the Locarno planet would be a Cillian planet, and it would regenerate people. Because it's, yeah. And of course he has a planet, because, planet Metalis from the Picard season 3 as well, which I'm assuming is some sort of weird Genesis planet as well. Terry Metalis, the showrunner of Picard season 3, is a Q, and he did all that stuff just right there. Also some of the ages and names really don't match up anyway in terms of the other characters. For instance, Picard's son is played by Edward Spleers. Spleers is his name. He's 35 or 36, roughly. And he he really does not look like he's in his early 20s. He looks like he's in his 30s. Now, when I was in my mid-30s, I looked like I was in my 20s. And when I was in my 20s, I looked enough like a kid so I could be in that cheesy, stretchy Armstrong course. And also a background character in Three Ninjas, the first one, because I looked enough like a teenager, I could still play a teenager. They put me in the background, way off on the side. Sparring with Ernie Ray Jr. So we have, so they could do that. I don't do that anymore. I haven't done any guest spots since little known film in 2002? I think it was something like No One Sleeps, Nessun Dorma, in the background of that one. I haven't really, I just do fan films out here, so don't do anything. I haven't been in anything in a long time. But yeah, so I'm not an expert on any of that stuff. But it is interesting that Ed Spleers is I don't know if he does conventions yet, but probably. He's supposed to be Picard and Beverly's son. Why would Beverly Crusher, not mention him and then disappear for 21 years and claims that he's about 21? It almost doesn't match up, because Nemesis ended in 2379 and Picard Season 1 is in 2401, and I think we've been over some of this. It does match up, however, if they had said that he was born in 2388. It does match up. They needed to do that instead. They needed to have a line of dialogue in Star Trek Picard season 3, in which they said that would in which they said that he was born during the 2365, 1988 birthday. So 2365, 1988, 2365. So he should have been born in 2365, which deliciously lines up perfectly with the year that Beverly Crusher was not on the Enterprise, and it was Dr. Pulaski was on the Enterprise. D. She got pregnant with Picard. She had a Jack Crusher. That's where he was born. That's where he was started. And because at that point, Picard did not like children, even though he'd met us and Pineal people and all that. He did met the Cillians. He still didn't like children. Sent some of them to the academy, but he still didn't like children. So she said, okay, I'm not going to mention this unknown son that I have with Picard. I'm just not going to mention it. I'm going to go off and bear him and then give him up for a while for adoption. Maybe the grandmother raised him for like 7 or 8 years, and then later on, then it lines up. Then it lines up. He's 34, 35. Be about right. Yeah, that will totally line up. It also line up with 1988. It also line up with their on-off relationship. That totally works. That completely works. They should have done that. There should have been a line of dialogue in there. It's odd that our son is claiming he's 21 when clearly he's not 21. He's in his early 30s. And she goes, well, that's because I got him back after he was put up for adoption when I left Starfleet for a year. Remember that, Jean-Luc? There should have been a line like that in there. They're like, oh, okay, 2365 is when he was born. All right. Totally works. I'll buy that. So yeah, he's quite a bit older. He's not a cadet. He's older. He's quite a bit older. And there is a difference between 34 and 24. There really is. Kind of tough to play that when you get up to that at that point. So yeah, that would work way better that he's older. But on the show, they claim that he's 20. Just to say, oh, he's after Nemesis. No, she found him years later. She got him back after Nemesis. So let's see, 2365 to 2379 or 7080. So that'd be like 15 years later, roughly. So 15 years later, she meets up with him when he's a teenager, and he gets to go around the galaxy with her and stuff. And then, yeah, so that makes sense. That makes a heck of a lot better, more sense. And then there's another Cillian oddity we messed with in the series. We messed with the Bashir and Kira thing. Now what happened is on the show, on the shows there were many affairs and interesting tie-ins and stuff. On Voyager there was Roxanne Biggs Dawson, who was married to Casey Biggs briefly, who played a Cardassian on Deep Space Nine, and then she was married to a guy named Dawson, Roxanne Biggs Dawson, and Seven of Nine, Terry, she was a 7 of 9 lady, she was Jerry Ryan was dating one of the producers. I'm not going to say which one during the show, and that's how she got hired. Kate Mulgrew was dating another one of the producers, so there you go. That's why she got hired. But well, one of the reasons. Anyway, that's convenient. Dating one of the producers. Yeah, hopefully they don't break up during the show. Then they fire her. So we have yeah we have So yeah, we have so the other story was that there have been some weird romances in Star Trek. On the show, Neelix is with Kes. The character of Ethan Phillips, now in his 60s, and Jennifer Lean, who's in her late 40s. That was just weird casting, saying this like childlike alien is dating, and he even thought so. The actor playing Neelix thought so at the time at conventions. He was like, "It's a little weird. That doesn't work." Another one that didn't work was Odo and Kira. We did the Odo and Kira thing, and Odo and Kira just did not work because the late Rene Benoit would have been in his I think he died in his late 70s. He would have been well into his late 50s, and she was 30 roughly during the show. So It didn't really work. He was 20 years older. It was a little weird. So it didn't work. Yeah. And it turns out that she was dating May December, like Julian Bashir's character, or C.D. Alfadil. They were dating. And at one point, actually, also, Gates McFadden became pregnant on the show, and so did they hit it. So she was pregnant on the show. So that could have been when Spleer's Picard was. So she was pregnant on the show. Yeah, that's right. No, that doesn't line up, but that could have been it. They just kind of hit it. Roxanne Dawson was pregnant on the show. They had to hide that, but they wrote that into the story and had her be like pregnant with Tom Paris. Be pregnant with Tom Paris. So here we have Nana Visitor and Alexander Siddig messing around and then having a baby. So they had to write it into Deep Space Nine that they had they had to write it in. So they made it look like Keiko had another baby we didn't mention at all, being pregnant. And they beamed the baby into Kira, and somehow Kira's carrying it. It makes no sense. They should have done is dropped the Odo romance subplot and said she's in fact shagging up with the Doctor, which would have made that make a lot more sense. Then O'Brien wouldn't have to raise their child. Yes, Kiriyoshi O'Brien is a Bashir, not an O'Brien. So in Silly Trek space, there's a Bashir at all that they address that. They say he's really he's a Bashir, not an O'Brien. And they do, and it's referenced in the background, and they do. Odo still likes her, and she's still okay with Odo, but because Odo isn't dead, but Renee Germanois dead. Also, Aaron Eisenberg's Nog is not dead. In this universe, he's a commander of the Emmett Till and the Emmett Till A, and then goes on to be a fleet captain. So he's important in Star Trek. First Ferengi in Starfleet. Yes, important to the galactic universe things. So those are a number of things that were present in when we left Starship Destination, saying it's the last season. It is the last season of Starship Destinations. So if there is another story, none of these other plot points really enter into the story. The only thing that's a little hairy is having LaForge's daughters appear, because you'd have to. I had to paint two of the other figures to look like them. They don't really. Hopefully it's not offensive. But other than that, yeah, it's like, okay, you introduced LaForge's daughters. So, is this the Star Trek Legacy? Is this the movie Star Trek Legacy? It's not a series. This is a movie, so it's not a series. So, yeah, it kind of is Legacy. It kind of is. So it was just a fan film. So Metellus and them don't know about it. It's a fan film. So, so for all the people out there going, oh, Star Trek Legacy is going to be a thing. It's a Kal Kat fan film. It hadn't even been written yet. At this point, there is no script yet. It's just character bios. There's no script. And it would be too expensive anyway. With the action figures, you can have Kirk meet Picard again, because they're action figures. They can beat each other. You can just silly in space revive. Yep. Just like revive them like it did Cedo. Yep, there they are. Hi, hand wave. If you had to do that in a movie, that would really not make sense. You'd have to like revive Kirk, and Shatner would probably demand several million to appear in it, and by then you'd blow your budget. Shatner and Chekhov and Sulu, yeah. How would you? Yeah, so that's one of the consternations of coming up with a story even here for a fan film. Is you're kind of like, well, is that going to make sense that they're there because they're, kind of high priced? So you want each one to have a little something to do. You don't want to have there's like 50 figures in there. You don't want to have all those 50 people talking. It would have like one line and then be gone. It's like, how would you do that in a movie? Also the Transformers for the Transformer one, but the Star Trek one's further along, as you can see. Because Yeah, I think we did Destinations after we did. But yeah, the Star Trek one's just further along because they were already painted for the Blessings Deferred special. Just painted them again, so they were all just doctored up the painting and just made them look. Yeah, the other one. Yeah. So finally, you get to see and the correct emoji Boyd emoji. Yeah, another thing that was screwy is the character of Emoji Boyd at the end was played by another Janeway, who is now LaForge's daughter and has changed completely. But in this one, she should be a Dr. Crusher figure from the 2360s because it makes more sense to having her be that than because she looks more like that than red hair than Janeway brown hair. That one looks more like the Abra, the other character, Abra Kurtzman. But yes, yeah, that one looks more like that one. So yeah, they mixed them up. Maybe she changed her hairstyle. Anyway, but I haven't come up with anything for them to do in the story, or anything for Tam and Kestra to do in the story. They'll be in it. They're painted. They're ready to go. They're finally first lieutenants or ensigns or something. Probably ensigns. The story will presumably take place a little after the events of the 2405 story. Probably by a year, because that makes sense. Some characters from the Enterprise G will be in it, Picard's son, and Seven of Nine, played by another Dr. Crusher figure, because we don't have a Seven of Nine that's all painted up to look like it. Maybe we won't include Cedo Jaxa at all, just to avoid that. Maybe we'll include her other nom de plume, her other her other name, Amanda Rumbley. Instead, oh, that's Amanda Rumbley. That's not Cedo. Just to completely avoid Cedo Jaxa, who's now Cedo Cassins, married to the David Cassins' grandson or whatever, from the other story. Also, Jeremy Astor, the character, would now be in his 40s, and he's now married to Jabbar Tal. We're not showing the space wedding for them. There's no point in that. And they'd be on that bioship from the end of the last story. Anyway, if they showed up in this one, we'll have to get them to this other place. There wouldn't be a central villain in the story so much as all you saw. Some of the figures are like Section 31 done up, kind of like a spy guys. Maybe they'd kind of be the villains. They'd be more like bureaucrat villains, I think. So they'd just be out for whatever their plan was, the temporal thing. So temporal Cold War thing, the beginnings of that. But nothing super convoluted. I don't want to make it a whole series. I just want a 90-minute movie. That's, yeah, a pilot. Not a whole series, just a pilot, just to show them this is kind of what I want to do. After the other crew, put them on a smaller ship. This bridge is slightly. The bridge is roughly the same size, really, as the old one. But yeah, the bridge is going to be done up, and yeah, so it's not a show about ships fighting each other in space and big space battles and yet again Wrath of Khan. Although it was quite fun to have the Star Trek Picard Season 3 have a sort of Wrath of Khan moment with that Cillian villain who clearly was the same character as the Elysian in Silly Trek, the Libyan. It clearly was her, and Terry Metalis is aware of our stuff, and he totally, I mean, he has to be aware of it, because that shapeshifter lady was the Elysian. That's absolutely who she was. So Captain Vedek, or whatever her name was. That's who that was. So there she is. And we had a version of her too. We had a Sela Yard character that showed up. The only thing that would have made it even more bizarre is if they had a cameo by Denise Crosby as Sela. That would have been more bizarre. That was kind of our ending of Picard Season 1, or which they didn't go with. Our Picard Season 1 ending explains away a little better the Riker zapping in and zapping out that they added at the last minute to have Riker show up. It didn't originally happen in Season 1. In our version of Season 1, it wouldn't have just been Riker. It would have been Captain Worf and Captain Sela of the Praetor of the Romulus. And then it makes sense that Riker's fleet was able to defeat, fight the evil Empress lady. Because in our version of it, she shows up and she's like, I think I mentioned it in the Cillian stories too. Sela showing up, she mentioned it. She's like, by the way, I did this. And so in Silly Trek, it was a little different. So in the Silly Trek universe, Picard season 1 ended with a planet with a scenario where Riker shows up and he does his speech. And he's, I'm going to kick your Romulan butt, you know. Treacherous tells you our ass, is what he said. And then shortly after that, they're fighting and they're kind of getting smacked around. And then the Klingon bird of prey or warship just appears. And it just appears and they're all, hail them. I am Worf, son of Morg and Martuk. We will also fight this Romulan. It'll be like, yeah, Worf, yes. And then comes out, another fleet appears. She's beaten on the Worf and his people too a little bit. And another fleet appears. And it's Praetor Sela. And it's Denise Crosby. And she shows up and she's like, yes, and when they're done with you, I'm next. Oh! And they're like, oh shit. And that's when she books out of there. She says, okay, I'm not going to fight Riker. I would have fought Riker for a little while, maybe Worf, but I'm not fighting Sela too. And she turns around and leaves. That would have been a much more satisfying ending. I mean, it would have gone on for 20 minutes more, but but still, that's a more cool ending. To be like, okay, I'm Sela. It's like, I'm going to kick your tail. I'm going to chase you down. Yes, we no longer want you in the Romulan Empire. But you sent me. It's like, I don't care. I'm bored of you. Your seat as the evil Empress is compromised. So to take exactly, you compromised the Romulan plan. You ruined it. So Sela shows up to direct her spy. First law of assassination: kill the assassin. Fire phasers. Pew! Torpedoes fire. Well, yeah, we don't even need to waste a torpedo on her. Just fire phaser. Disruptors fire. But then begs the question of Picard's weird death and getting resurrected as a robot. Why did Riker leave? Just leaves. Just books out of there. He had to get back to nepotism planet where his daughter was hanging out with that freaky older captain guy. But yeah, Kestra Riker and Tam Locarno are now 19. So there you go. Well, it's fine now. Yeah, Riker's not too worried about it. And they served on the Chimera for 2.5 years, like Wesley Crusher on the Enterprise. So they're familiar with being on a starship and serving on one. So their academy years probably end quicker than like Lily Whedon's did. Yeah. Ew. And then Wesley with the Traveler is canon, even according to the show. So yeah. Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that's my take on that. I would just not include Cedo at all. Just say it's Rumbly. At this point, it's Rumbly. Well, it kind of looks like her, but it's not her. Just don't deal with that part. That's just too many cans of worms. Just probably not deal with that part. Well, we gave her a good second comeuppance. Maybe Rumbly could like reference. Oh yeah, my alter ego, Sela Cassins, Cedo Cassins is Cedo Jaxa. Turns out we were all clones of the alien like Romulus experiment, Cardassian experiment on they were gonna like infiltrate the Federation, and they decided not to. You know, like Shinzon of Romulus kind of. Yeah, they decided not to, and so because they discovered their plan was really incompetent. Because that would be silly. Our plan was really bad. Yeah. It was a really bad plan. Terrible plan. So that's just my thoughts on it. It hasn't. Seems like it's closer to a Star Trek one than a Transformer one as a movie, not a series, a movie, just a straight up fan film movie event thing. Also, the Transformers is 40th anniversary this year. Although we did do a we did do the Robotech meets the Transformers thing like just a few months ago. So it's not like, not like we haven't done it like 6 months ago. We haven't done that, but those Transformers are off in the future, and they are, so this is kind of about that too. So those Transformers are off in the future, and they would be in the 2030s, so they would be further along in the future. They'd be like 16 years from now or something. So how do they get back? Well, you could totally bring some of them back real easily. Yeah, because you've got Vector Prime. Got one of those primes, and he has time-space space bridges and stuff, and time-space powers. All he's got to do is say, I want the Zor primes to come back to this timeline, the 2024 to hang out with us. Open the space porthole. Thump. There they are. Pull them out. There they are. We're back. You won't believe where we were. And they'll be like, oh, no, it's temporal edict. You can't say where you were. Yeah. That's easy. Yeah. Why convolute things? You have your thing. You have it's sort of like the Marvel movies kind of convolute stuff by having them have to reference the TV shows, and they shouldn't. Just because it's confusing as all get up. Like, okay, we're going to reference these other characters. Yeah, like the Marvels movie referencing the show. Although they did a good job kind of setting that up in the movie. The swapping got really annoying, though. Like, well, they have powers, make them swap. Why? Just because she has a magic swapping bracelet. That part was confusing. If they just had them go on an adventure, that would have been fine. Yeah. And Ant-Man, Quantumania, yeah, same thing there. A little over convoluted. Let's have some backstory. Let's have Bill Murray, Basinger, and have all this funky stuff going on. And then have Ant-Man totally beat the bad guy, making Kang like not a villain, but kind of a low-tier villain that Ant-Man fights him. Although, as I think they pointed out in I think how it should have ended. Like, why didn't he just go to Giant Man size and step on him? It's like you're in a quantum realm where everybody is tiny, right? So you just get a little bigger and just go Godzilla versus Bambi. Splat. He's dead. He's all over your shoe. Then let's return to the universe. Exactly. Just make yourself 50 feet tall again. You were in the movie at one point. Crunch. He's on my boot. I'm gonna wipe it off on something. Yeah. Your micro world is not very interesting when you can totally kick their ass. Yeah. So that's the trouble with overthinking it, and the translator goop thing that did what? Huh? But yeah, that movie made an Aquaman 2 on the DC side with the goofy stuff going on. Oh yeah. But yeah, that didn't make any sense either. They left the most evil, trident, powerful weapon being guarded by some Krakens. Just a couple of easy-to-fight Krakens. And it's just lying there on the ground in the snow. Like that's the most powerful weapon in the universe. And it's just lying there for anyone to find. And just, what? Shouldn't it be locked up somewhere? And the ghost didn't. Yeah, the ghost comes out of it. No. But yeah, and their submarine thing. Why would they follow the bad guy at that point? Didn't really. Yeah, and the reason the first Aquaman worked is because it was a Marvel. Yeah, it was Marvel formula, but done as a DC movie. They just literally copied the beat for beat of Marvel. Confirmed by nephew Johnny Patch. Yes, Johnny Cook. That's what they did. They totally copied the Marvel formula. That's why that movie made $1 billion. They copied it. But yes, As for the other inside of yeah, I think I mentioned that the Star Trek Online people that I know of have left Star Trek Online and they're going to work for DC. So they won't be on that anymore. So you probably have trouble finding the ships, but somebody will give them the ships. We do not have a copy of the Enterprise G. No, they didn't make a model toy of it. We're not building one either. Could say that's the Titan model, I guess. Just rename it. Because it kind of looks like it. You could do that. But no, it's all right. That's fine. That's a bit problematic to just throw that in there as a gag. Oh, this is the ship, that's the Enterprise. And we'll do a story where it's not based on the Enterprise, but it has some of the Enterprise people. And that's the idea. Yeah. Well. Yeah. But this is an Avengers level threat, maybe, because it has the casts of various crews and brings back the magical Cisco. The Cisco. I am the Cisco of the province. And although my character is black, a white guy doing the voice, it seems offensive. Oh. But Mr. Cisco, are you hung like an Arabian stallion horse? What kind of question is that to ask the Cisco? But of course, yes, I am hung like an Arabian horse. Bum ba bum ba bum ba. Exactly. Bum ba bum. Yes. I know where that was going, but yeah, over the DC. So, and then there were some, consternation. Will Kal Kat go over to Star Trek Online and work for them and have and replace those other boys? No. I don't have a job at that kind of thing. So, and even if I did, I don't. And I would be in a different department. I wouldn't be 3D animation and backgrounds and sets and 3D. I do my animation stuff. If I make backgrounds and sets, it's live action, completely different. And if it was story writing or the story room or the writer's room, that kind of stuff, editing and stuff, in the writer's room stuff, it would be completely different. So yeah, completely different thing going on. Voice acting in my fan films, it's completely different. Writing and voice acting and live action animation, completely different than a video game. I don't do video game production, so not a problem. No connection. No, there's no connection. Yeah, I don't do video games. So even Gamelt did video games. So I don't do video games. Yeah, his story would have made a good video game. I don't know him, but I did a review of his Uncharted thing years ago. Anyway, so yeah, just shooting the shit about other stuff, Transformer thing. The Transformer thing will probably involve somehow the 13 Primes or some of them. It'll involve the 4 Dinobots they made. They made four mid-tier Dinobots. They made they just recently came out with Snarl. They had Grimlock, Slag, Slug, and Snarl. You know, so call him Slug, but he's Slag. It's Slag. Even Theo's Awesome Reviews is all, call him Slag. Oh, I don't mind. Nobody should mind in Britain if you call him Slag. They know what he's called, right? Slag. Anyway, so yeah, it's fine. It's fine. It doesn't mean anything. Slag. And so yeah, Grimlock, Slag, and the others from that. They were sort of halfway between Masterpiece and the OG little ones. So they were like the re-release, the Titans Return ones. So yeah, they're Studio Series 86 guys, I guess. Yeah. So yeah, they're a little taller than the other ones, but they're right about mid-sized. Yeah, they're not Masterpiece because that would be insane. But yeah, so all of them are ready, and the ships and the Titans are there. So the Titan robots. I'm not sure how we're gonna film those, but yeah. Everybody's inventory did that during the game, the football game. Everybody's accounted for. There's another whole couple of chests with full of stuff we're not going to use again. in the garage. Doesn't mean we're throwing them away. It just means we're not going to use them for this. And we're not going to use all of the... I think there's 300 Transformers in there. We're obviously not going to use 300 of them in the thing. It has to be like a few dozen of them, because it gets too convoluted for one fan film. And we haven't come up with it yet, but we will. It'll be probably also Legacy, just because that's what the current thing is, Legacy and Earthspark. And we don't really... It wouldn't do it justice to do an Earthspark thing, just because it's... I guess the new Bumblebee one was spin-off of Prime, was not as well liked. And Earthspark is controversial. I would do Earthspark. I would totally have Nightshade show up and Twitch and all that, but it's kind of its own universe, really. I don't think... It's not a problem. And they didn't make a Nightshade figure. You have to go look for it on Takara, and it's kind of expensive. So I'm not buying that. But yeah, it would be convoluted, because the Maltobots and that group are clearly a different timeline in the multiverse than this one is, where Megatron is apparently a good guy now, similar to the IDW comics. And Megatron shouldn't ever be a good guy. That makes no sense. That part of it, they could argue that. They could say that's silly that in that universe Megatron becomes a good guy, because that's... Why would they... And it's like fiction that the other stuff happened. Kind of retconning the other stuff. That doesn't really work, and yet Cedo Jack says it. Yeah, it doesn't make sense, but yeah, so yeah, it doesn't make sense that Megatron would be that a good guy. He's a Decepticon. Their nature is Decepticon. They can't reprogram themselves to be good guys. I guess they could, but why would they do that? It's much more interesting to do the Transformer soap opera type of thing, because we can't really show like major like fighting effects and stuff, because they're just plastic figures. Kind of hard to do that. But it is interesting that a fan film trailer has come out called Galvatron's Revenge, Transformers Prime, which looks more interesting than the Bumblebee spinoff. But yeah, but the Bumblebee movie was good. But yeah, the spinoff. Also, Rise of the Beast was good, and Rise of the Beast was a live action. Spent a couple $1 million on yet another sort of altered timeline, similar to the Malto one, actually, similar to Earthspark, actually, well, very similar, but it was also ours. It was our fan film. It was, yeah. They should have given us royalties for a little bit of that. I mean, it is, yeah. It's the second season of All Transformers Much, when we went to the Beast Planet and then on to Earth. Yeah. It's that. I just watched the 3-part Beast story with the Scythe to follow the Scythe of Destiny thing. Yeah, I know it's not a scythe, it's a sickle, but... Oh, and that bad guy is Dracatron, who is also similar to the Fallen, but it's not the Fallen, it's one of his minions. One of his heralds. And also you have... yeah, because the Fallen. The Fallen is supposed to be Megatronus, even though why would the other Prime, Megatronus Prime, be the Fallen? Is that where they're getting the other Megatron from? Because that's not the same guy. Also, some of the other Primes have silly powers they kind of shouldn't. Okay, Vector Prime with time travel. Yeah, that one especially is like, okay, that's a deal breaker. If he has time travel ability, he can literally cheat death. If he can literally like screw with entropy and time and stuff and be like a Q and basically say, oh, Optimus Prime, your head has been blown off. Flume. Okay, no, it's not. It's like, okay, well, what if that's like an apex in time that you messed with the timeline? You know, the multiverse gets blown up, and you have like a Marvel TVA to show up. Oh yeah. And before I go, what do I think of the Wolverine and Deadpool trailer? I think it's going to be less edgy than it looks. It does look less edgy. It already has... Yeah, you can already tell from the trailer that it's toned down considerably. They make a joke about pegging, but you can tell that they're like deliberately making the yeah. It's probably not rated R. They claim it is, but I bet it's not. It is PG-13. And he meets up with Wolverine. If they're just gonna cuss, yeah, I don't know. It could be good, but if it's not, it's clearly not as edgy. So yeah. Anyways, yeah. So that's my commentary on that, all that rant. It's almost an iceberg, but not quite. Yeah, sorry. Transformers and Star Trek, 2 fan films, about 90 minutes each. Similar to those old G.I. Joe, the 4-part specials there during the week. Way back in the day. And Transformers did them too. So yeah, it's not really a pilot, it's kind of its own thing, do whatever you want. If it's too convoluted to have the Zors show up, don't have them show up. Just leave them out. Or Ritter is put in the other box. The character that played Ritter was the Bison character. He can just be somebody else. He can be the earlier Ritter. It would be kind of fun. I'd say like, oh, you're the earlier one. The one that's the legend. It's actually the earlier one. But that would be convoluted. So you don't need to have, just do a story. The trick to a good story is to do a good story. And the characters are in it. I think that's what makes the 86 Transformers, the movie, legend in that. Or even the 86, or the 70s Superman, or the first Indiana Jones, or the first Star Wars, be legend in that they just put the characters in the situation, wrote a story that fit with those characters, and did that. And they weren't worried about sequels or tie-ins or anything like that. The first Star Wars was one thing, then they added to it. But originally, they did one thing. That's why Star Trek The Motion Picture is an oddity, because it also does its own thing. Go to this other ship, they go to this planet, they do that. It's within it. It's set in its own universe. It's not a sequel to anything. It's just its own universe. Wrath of Khan was not. Wrath of Khan was a direct sequel, and they've been trying to do Wrath of Khan over and over again. There's the supervillain to fight, but Khan is not Kirk's Joker. Kirk doesn't really have a Joker. If Kirk actually had to his Batman, if Kirk had a Joker, it'd be Kang or Koth or something like that. But no. Picard's Joker is, of course, Q. So it makes sense that they should do a Q thing. As for Star Trek Legacy, near as I can tell, that's a fan thing. Not just mine, but it's a fan thing. And they want that. The fans want that. But I don't think they're actually doing that. They seem obsessed with the Section 31 movie, which is a bad idea. They shouldn't take a serious out of that. Ending season 5 of Discovery, coming to an end. They should bring them home to their universe, to their timeline. They shouldn't stay, but they should bring it back. They're their own timeline anyway, because Spock did not have a sister, or a stepsister, or a half sister. He didn't have a sister. He had a brother. He had Sybok, his brother, and he didn't have a brother. So it's a different Discovery. Despite what they say, Discovery and Strange New Worlds is a different timeline. It's absolutely a different timeline. So they can do whatever they want. The guy who's playing Kirk on that, there's a couple. He's actually older than William Shatner by like 3 or 4 years. He's 40 already. So the actor playing him is actually too old to be Kirk, really. They've kind of screwed that up already. They have a Khan that's not the right Khan, because they have to have Khan. He's a little kid Khan in the Cillian theory, and it's also a theory of some other fans, is that he's not originally Khan Singh. He's a clone of Khan Singh. They've cloned him. And several other augment children, that makes more sense. It's like, okay, this kid is going to be Lena Singh's great-great-great-great-grandfather, but he's not Khan. He's just called that. Yeah, that would make more sense. It's like, that's why she had to go back and save the kid. Because it was her great-great-great-great-grandfather, and not actually Khan. They kind of say that it is Khan, but it can't be. The eugenics word thing is in the other Star Trek timeline. It happened in the 1990s. It can't have happened later. That makes no sense. It's a different timeline. Some sort of temporal thing happened that made the Discovery timeline. And every all new modern Star Trek show is a different timeline. And Picard's show is almost a different timeline, too. So, who knows? I mean, it's clearly darker and more sardonic and edgier than the Next Generation. Even Picard Season 3 is edgier. So what do we do? So, well, we do Strange Worlds and The Fallen Ones and Destinations, the 3 seasons of my series, during that 5-year mission there. 5-year mission over 3 years. Why don't you just make it a little darker and edgier? So is Cillian space technically in the Picard Abrams universe? Technically, yeah, it is. It's not the OG universe. It's a slightly altered universe. It's kind of the OG universe, and maybe this next story establishes how that works. Maybe the older crew, they show up and they're like, yeah, we're from the OG universe. We're from the TOS universe. Yeah. So yeah, there's some interesting ideas there. Star Trek Legacy type of thing. And there's a Transformers Legacy toilet. So everybody likes Legacy. It's Superman Legacy at DC. Everybody loves their legacy. This 2023, 2024. Love their legacy. But that could get really convoluted really fast. It's like Mark's Cards had warned it wouldn't be a good idea for them to do a Star Wars movie and then bring back Rey and then introduce Mara Jade and all that because it were the Star Wars. Because that would be convoluted and silly. Oh, she has to be a family member of somebody. That's the same problem as Rey being a Skywalker. Just because she kissed Ben Solo, Kylo Ren makes her a Skywalker somehow. And he became briefly a good guy and then was rejuvenated fighting Palpatine. That silly scene. The Kal Kat version of that was that Palpatine then falls over dead. Behind Palpatine was this really crusty old Gungan. It was yeah, I did some of the fan stuff with Gungan. It was Jar Jar Binks. He was actually Darth Sidious. And he was like, it was me, sir, the whole time, sir. I was pulling the strings. I was in charge of that other guy, too, and Kylo's deception and all that. That would have been awesome. Like, okay, yeah. And you are actually my child. You're actually a clone. We're like, oh, okay, she's not anything then. She's a clone. Okay. That would have been way more fun. Abrams is like, no, not doing that. We are really not going to do that. Because it would have been funny. Yeah, they don't want it to be funny. We want to be edgy and dark, not funny. What are you going to do? Are you going to say that Finn is the daughter of the black girl from the previous Star Wars thing from like decades ago with the Obi-Wan series that doesn't exist yet? Yes. Yeah. Finn is, yeah. And then there's the other weird Star Wars fan theory of Hendel from... This is weird. I mean, the little girl from Handel, from, I think she's called Handel, or Cindy, I think is her name. Cindy, like with an S. Cindy, Sindel, yes. The little blonde girl from the Caravan of Courage and the Wookiee, the Wookiee movies that were done in the 80s, right after the Empire, the Wookiee movies. That Sindel somehow grows up to be Captain Phasma from the Star Wars later on to become Captain Phasma. That would be messed up because if Sindel, no. I hope the books didn't do that because no, she wouldn't become a bad guy. Yeah, she would. I could see her being like 40 years later, she grows up to be like a senator on a planet or something. Maybe a space botanist or something. But not the stormtrooper captain. That makes no sense. That's one of the fan things. Sindel is the that's stupid. No, she could be in Mando season 3 as like running a bar or something. Yeah, that'd be fine. Or a Senate. I'm thinking of the Senate thing, like in Mando season 4. She's on that planet where the guy goes to meet up with the black guy, and she's like just there. as like a president or something. She shows up. She's like, "Hey, I'm Sindel from the Wookiee planet, the Ewok planet, Ewok planet. That's it. Yeah, the Ewok Endor, the Ewok planet. She could show up in Andor as Endor, just to be weird. Andor season 2. That would be weird. Oh no, we don't have Disney Plus anymore. So I don't know, but no, Sindel does not show up as Phasma. That's as dumb as the other idea. But Wilford Brimley's character shows up as like a cyborg or something. He was just as dumb. Although one of the sillier things in that, and it's kind of the same idea. One of the sillier things in the series is the dark saber, because it's the opposite of a lightsaber. It's like guys, no. I know it's a thing. It's a Jedi thing. It's like no. That's just dumb. I think that's dumb, and then I do like pseudo Jackson coming back. Oh, the dark saber. There's been a lot of jokes about his dark saber. Being a euphemism for his cock. Because it totally is. His dark saber so far up his Princess Latoya, you're gonna emasculate her 50 shades darker. Which is a line from one of the... Which is several different lines stuck together from a shit post on the internet called Most Offensive Video. It was a Kwanzaa special or something. It was a Most Offensive Video. Had no relation. We made a parody of them once, but it's lost. But it wasn't us. No, it was Film Threat. They were doing it. It was different people. Film Threat. Anyway, so yeah, so yeah, we have, yeah, so even the Star Wars does goofy stuff. It's like, yeah, I could go on about that, but it's not this. You know, like, okay, we want to include Rodriguez and his friends' children or teenagers or whatever in Star Wars. So we did. We had them show up in Star Wars as the mods in that one episode of the Boba Fett thing that would like, the Book of Boba Fett. Like half of that was Mandalorian season 2.5 at the end. That's my agree. And Cad Bane shows up out of the blue. Been there too. That's the Star Wars rant. We done that one before. Yeah, it's like, why did they bring back that guy just because they found the actor again? They didn't need to bring Boba Fett back. He was in all of 6 minutes of the original series. 6 minutes. Watch the movies. He's in it for 6 minutes. At most. He's in it as much as Amber Heard is in Aquaman 2. And 6 minutes, roughly. She's in 20 minutes if you count the CGI in the background, but it's really just 6 minutes. And it's like 3.5 of dialogue. She has the, yeah. Because it cut out a lot of scenes. Also, Captain America 4 over there at Marvel has a lot of issues. And they've had to reshoot like a third of it. And now they're claiming either Hulk or Red Hulk. And it's not. It's Red Skull. But, yeah. Anyway, it's probably not Hulk. They just have a weird, like, thing with a hand. I don't think it's Hulk. Why would Red Hulk be? Red Skull is probably what it is. It wouldn't really, yeah, that wouldn't make any sense. But yeah, they've been known to add weird stuff before, so maybe. But yeah. So when you're doing your thing, don't screw it up.